All right, today we're going to be working on 4-6, which is zeros in the quotient, which means zeros in the answer of your division problem. So I need you to open up your books to page 106, and you can follow along with me once I get there, but first I'm going to pose a question to you. So make sure you're open to page 106, and you write all of this at the top of a new page in your spiral, and make sure you can find that page tomorrow when we talk about it in class. So here is my question to you, and I want you to go ahead and write this question in your spiral just so you can have an example to look back on if you have questions later on in the video. So my question to you: the cycling team raises money to buy a bike that cost $312. The team collects the same amount of money each week for 3 weeks to pay for the bike. How much does the team collect each week? Well, two important things. I need to know how many weeks did they collect? 3. We know that. And I need to know how much did they collect in all? 312. So, how do I find how much they collected each week? Because they collected 312 in all, but we want to know how much they collected each week out of the 3 weeks. So once you write that, or I wrote it also like this, that they collected over a period of 3 weeks and they collected $312. So how would you solve this? Division. Yes. So we are going to have the division problem, 3 weeks divided into $312. I'm going to write that on a new page so we can see it a little better. 3 weeks, $312. Okay, remember, the point of this video and this lesson is that we know we're going to have a 0 somewhere up here in the quotient. So let's go ahead and solve this out. So I asked myself, how many times does this 3 go into this 3? How many times? Just 1. And 1 times 3 is 3. So 3 minus 3 is 0. All right, now please watch me. We are paying attention to that 1 right now. And we are going to take that 1 and drop it down. So I'm going to put it right here. All right, so the hint I give some of my friends, that I gave some of my friends last week, is that down here you always have to have 2 numbers. Once you have 2 numbers, you can ask yourself, does that number go into those 2 numbers? If you only have 1 number there, you can't ask yourself that. So right now I have 2 numbers, so I ask myself, can 3 go into 1? The answer is no, it cannot. So I have to say, how many times does it go into 1? It doesn't. So now I take this, I put a 0 up here in the 10 spot, and I say 0 times 3. What is that? Well, we know that's 0. What is 1 minus 0? Just 1. Now I have to drop down that 2. Once I drop that down, I have 2 numbers down here. Oops, sorry. I have 2 numbers down here. So that means I have to ask myself, how many times does 3 go into 12? And we know it goes in there 4 times, because 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 12 is, oh, it won't let me write down that far. 0. And once we have the big 0, we know that we do not have a remainder. So this is just an example, and we're going to try some together. So I want you to write this one in your spirals, and you are going to try it along with me. So what is the first thing we do? What is the first number we pay attention to? We pay attention to this 5. And we don't have to pay attention to the both the 5 and the 2 right now. Since the 5 is bigger than the 4, we know that the 4 can go into that 5. So let's just pay attention to this 5. So how many times does the 4 go into the 5? Only once. 1 times 4 and subtract. Okay, what do we do next? Correct, we have to drop down that 2, so there's 2 numbers down here for us to divide this 4 into. So we take the 4, 4 goes into 12 how many times? 3. Because 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0. Now, some of you might stop there thinking, oh, I got the answer because we have only a 0 down here. But look, we still need to drop this last 0. We can't forget him. So, when there's 2 zeros down here, you can do one of the 2 things. You can say, all right, I have 2 numbers down here. That means I have to take this 4 and put it in there. How many times does it go in there? Well, it only goes in, or 4 goes into 0 0 times. So, 0 times 4 is 0. 0, 0 minus 0 is 0. And there's our big single 0. So you can either do that, or when you drop that down and you see a double 0, sometimes I like to just say, okay, you can bump it up. And you just flip it up there. So that way you moved this guy up here. So now you don't have them. Now you just have 1 0. So we're going to try some of these together. So let's do 9 divided by 972. So write this in your spirals. Remember, we're not paying attention to the 97. That's too big for us to think about right now because we know 9 can go into that 9. So let's just work with this 9 for right now. 9 goes into 9 one time. 1 times 9 is 9. Perfect. 9 minus 9, 0. Okay, now I need 2 numbers down here, remember? 2 numbers. So I'm going to drop my 7 because it's in my 10th spot. And now that I have 2 numbers down there, I'm going to say, how many times does 9 go into the 7? It doesn't. So in that case, I say, oh, the 9 does not go into the 7. So I have to put a 0 up there. 0 times 9 is 0. 7 minus 0, 7. Now what do we got to do? We only have 1 number down here. We can't say, does 9 go into 7 again? We have to, you're right, we have to drop the 2. And now I can ask myself, how many times does 9 go into 72? And you know that it goes in there 8 times, because 8 times 9 is 72. 72 minus 72 is your big 0. And we don't have anything else left to drop down, do we? Nothing. So we know our answer is 108. So I want you to try a couple on your own. Actually, I lied. I want you to try one more with me that has a 0 in the quotient and a remainder before you start some on your own. Okay, I want you to write this problem down and we'll do this last one together. So I have to say, how many times does 7 go into 5? It doesn't. So I need to take it to the next, oops, I erased my 3. So I have to take it to the next step. So I have to say, how many times does 7 go into 56? Well, I know that 7 times what is 56? Right, 7 times 8. 7 times 8 is 56. 56 minus 56 is 0. But remember, I have to drop down the 3. And I have to ask, oh, I have 2 numbers down here. So now I can ask myself, how many times does 7 go into this 3? It can't. So 0 times 7 is 0. 3 minus 0 is just 3. But I have nothing left to drop down. There's nothing over here. So I just say my answer, my quotient is 80 remainder 3. Right now I want you to try some on your own. Okay, in your books on page 107, I want you to try problems 13 through 17, please. And then you're going to go ahead and type your answers in the quiz box. And make sure you can bring it to show me during small groups, either tomorrow or today. Okay, so here are your answers for numbers 13 through 17. 13, you should have got 400 remainder 1. 14, 36, 15, 102, 16, 304, and 17, 109, remainder 2. If you got one of these wrong, please, please, please do not be sad. This should not be you. just come tomorrow, or come today or tomorrow, and ask what you did wrong, and we'll figure it out together. So then you're not this guy anymore. You are this guy now. All right, see you tomorrow.